best advice you've received in real estate?
Ooh, best advice. I'd say it comes from my father. He is a realtor of about 50 years. And so he would come home after work and he'd say, Michael, in this business, you can't get too high and you can't get too low. And I was like, at the time, I didn't really understand what he was talking about. But I think it was either a day where he cashed a big check or a day where he lost a big check. And he would say, you can't get too high or get too low. And I think that resonated with me when I got into this business because, I transitioned from a very steady job into this. And the first year getting over the hill was very difficult. And 3 out of my first 6 deals fell through. And
Yeah.
I was very much questioning whether I should be in this industry or not. And I drew back on that advice. And I think it's true. And I think it also kind of speaks to, you don't want the transaction to be about you. The clients need to feel like it's about them because it is. And if you have this grip on the transaction that's unhealthy, I think everybody can sense that. And successful realtors don't have that.
I think that's really wise advice. And I love the idea of the not getting too high or too low, because if you celebrate too much of a victory, the opposite is going to happen as well. You have to, almost, when those challenging moments happen, you're going to feel those much more deeply than, so it's almost better to, I think, maintain a slightly stoic response, not to not celebrate when things are good, but to realize that everything's fluid and everything moves. There's always challenge. There's always good things that happen, and they just kind of move in and out, and never to be too moved, like kind of thinking of it as like a mountain. Like there's storms that come, there's bright sunny days. The mountain doesn't move. The mountain just absorbs it all. So I think
Yeah. I
that's,
mean, we're talking, in December, and I think it gets highlighted this time of year because for me, the way my brain works is I'm starting at zero. I'm starting at zero right now because I'm booking business for next year. And just the way I operate, I want to grow each year and provide a better product each year. And so the last transaction really doesn't mean anything. It means hopefully you deliver a great experience, but as far as it can't carry you into your next paycheck necessarily. So I think this business is unique. It's not like if we are financial advisors, we have a book of business and we maintain it. We have to go find our next meal if we want to eat and feed our family.
yeah. If somebody could ever figure out how to, charge like a financial advisor, where it's, a percentage of assets under management, where you're getting 1% a year,
Yes.
they do, boy, they are not starting over
Oh,
from zero every year, but realtors
no.
are. So you're right. So you can't really celebrate because you got to eat. You got to eat next. And all right. So wonderful advice there. Worst advice you've received.
So I think this was well-meaning advice. The advice was not to leave my corporate America job to do real estate. And I think it meant well. I think the perception was I was leaving something very steady to go to something that's not steady. And that's true to begin with. However, that wasn't true for my personality and what I was looking to do. I wasn't fired up going into that job that I was holding where I wasn't building anything. I was looking around and I was seeing people that weren't necessarily happy, that didn't have autonomy, had a cap ceiling. And I've seen so many restructurings that I wouldn't consider that safe at all. I consider
Yeah.
what I'm doing now much safer, where I have control to a certain extent over my success. I mean, there's different factors, but I can decide where I take this, and I have nobody else to blame if it doesn't work out. And so for me, that was less risky because I was betting on myself. And so I think the advice was, it was might make sense to some, but for me, it wasn't what I needed to hear. I needed to hear, hey, you got this. You're gonna make this work. You love people. You're smart. You're going to carry those previous experiences into real estate and do something really special. And that's what I did believe. And my wife and I had those conversations when we made that transition. And she's like, I trust you. I know you can do this. And I think that's what helped me kind of catapult and get past that first year, because anybody that starts in this business knows that first year is just treacherous.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's you're giving up benefits, you're giving up some sort of, well, you're right. You're really not giving up any sort of guarantee, because of course, companies go out of business, companies restructure, people get I was laid off from a company just before I started this job, where I had received a perfect review, which I probably shouldn't have received a perfect. I probably should have got like a 99 out of 100, but I literally got 100 review, and I got a like $15,000 raise, and then literally the next week they're like, "Oh yeah, we're eliminating your position." I was like, "What?" So the idea of not celebrating too much also was a great advice, because I was like, yes, I'm making more money. And then I was like all of a sudden out of a job. So I certainly understand that. And also, you are now running your own business. And I think that is a really great advice. Is you are walking away from some level of certainty, but you're also walking into a greater opportunity, for a lot of us. So Michael Thornton is our guest today. He is the team lead. By the way, he is a local guy here in Chicago. And I say that only because when I started this show 7 years ago, I only was talking to local Chicago top agents. And of course, we've expanded to the whole country. We talk to people in every state, and rarely do I get a chance to talk to Chicago agents any longer. So I'm so excited to talk to one of our own. Michael Thornton is the team lead of the Thornton team at Keller Williams Premier Properties, which is the #1 real estate team in Wheaton, Illinois, for 2024, as recognized by Real Trends Verified. With more than $200 million in lifetime sales and over 400 families served, the Thornton team consistently averages $30 million in annual volume and 60 plus homes sold every year. He's also a real estate investor with experiences flipping and owning short-term and long-term rentals. He's a proud Wheaton resident. He and his wife and their 5 children live there and reside in Wheaton. And he has deep ties to the community, and he has a deep commitment to client-first service. And that is what has made the Thornton team one of the most trusted and recognized names in Wheaton, Glen Ellen, Naperville. These are all very affluent suburbs here in Chicago. They're upscale suburbs that people who start off in the city oftentimes move out to. I am resisting the flight to the suburbs. I've been here 25 years. I would have probably moved to Glen Ellen or one of those suburbs, because that's where all my friends seem to have gone. But I work in the city. I live in the city. So I'm in the city, but Michael is out there with all of the people I know. And boy, is that a competitive market. And, it's the greater Western suburbs. It is super competitive. He's crushing it out there. And he is here to talk to us about sort of how he built his business. But he spends his time outside of work golfing and coaching his son's sports teams. He is a father of 5. He is busy. Michael, oh, by the way, before we get on, I want everyone to follow Michael on Instagram, which is Michael Thornton 1, the number 1. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. And now I'm going to put you right into my CRM to work on you moving out to the
There you
suburbs.
go. I could be a client. Well, yeah, it's funny. We did look to move out to Oak Park, which is for those listening, that's the closest suburb to the city. That was
Yeah.
that was our sort of like, well, we'll go to the suburbs, but not really. And then we sort of said, no, we're going to stay here. So, but we're city kids. But that's
That's funny that you say that. My wife and I, we got married. We said we don't want to live in the city. We want the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So we lived in Oak Park.
well, Oak Park
That's
is
exactly what it is.
lovely,
Yeah.
and there's worse places to live, and we are so fortunate here in Chicago. We just have so much beautiful, opportunity to live, whether you're rural or urban, and you are doing a great job. Are you originally from that area?
I'm not actually. So I'm from Detroit. So I went to Michigan State, and the recruiters were all from Chicago, not from Detroit for obvious reasons. And I got brought out here to work for Kraft Foods. And that was the first 9 years of my career. I got licensed in real estate halfway through that when I started to sense that maybe that wasn't going to be my long-term play. But yeah, that job brought me out to Chicago. And my wife has very deep roots here. So she grew up in Wheaton. And so when we started having kids, we wanted to get close to my in-laws. I always joke that the standard in-law jokes don't apply to them. They're great to be around, a ton of fun. So we moved from Oak Park to Wheaton, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I have a lot of friends. Kraft is headquartered here. Well, not so much anymore, because now they're Kraft Heinz, and I don't even know how the corporate structure works there. But a lot of my friends were Kraft people. They worked in the suburbs, and then they went on to other places like Kellogg and other places. But anyway, so you have made that transition from the corporate life into the entrepreneurial life, and that is really a different game. And you're walking away from things like benefits and 401ks and, group health and all of these cool things that are really pretty nice. And I assume you probably were thriving within Kraft because it's a wonderful organization and they just have a great company. And that is a career right there. That is a 30-40 year career. It's pretty well established, a pathway, and you could rise up the ranks. And what sort of caused you to want to leave?
Yeah, I did have a good experience at Kraft, and I was there during the Kraft Heinz transition, and so I
Sure.
think that was an interesting time, and I think they gave you a lot more on your plate for, I guess a little bit more money, but it was an interesting time where you were just getting more and more and more. I gained a lot of great experience, but I think ultimately I was looking around and I was saying, I see the decision makers and the executives and people, and of course I'm only seeing it from a distance, but to me it was like, man, I'm not sure what they're building. I'm not sure what decision making power they really have. It's like to make a decision, you go through 20 different people and nothing actually gets done. You spin your wheels. And at the end of the day, like I'll just be honest, like I love the people that I was working with, and I love they had a really good culture. But if I'm honest, didn't care if we sold one more box of mac and cheese. And so I had to sit there acting like I cared if we sold one more box of mac and
Right.
cheese. And so I just got to the point where I felt like it was more risky for me to stay and not build something that I feel like I could do for an entire career versus going to start something that I feel like I could start building. And that's where I was looking at it. I was doing very well there. I was probably one of the youngest people in that kind of ring of leadership, and I was doing well. But for me, I didn't think I could do that for 30 more years. And when I came to that conclusion, I started thinking about what could I do for 30 more years. And I've always had an interest in real estate. My dad's done it. And, of course, I said I'll never do what dad does. And here I am. But I thought first maybe I'd do some investing. So I partnered on a flip. And I said, man, that's a lot like a job. And I like it, but I can't do that as I'm working for Kraft. I bought a rental and I said, man, I'll have to own about 50 of these before I can actually replace income. That's probably not the path forward. And I said, what about the brokerage side? I said, I love people. I've gained some great experience calling on customers. I've been in very high level sales conversations with customers of Kraft, and I feel like I would do a very good job kind of consulting and being in that realm. What if I made that jump? And of course, I made that decision in my head about a year before I mentioned it to my wife, and then sprung it on her one day. Classic, just the worst possible way you could do it. Told her I was going to quit my job. We had just had our third kid. We had 3 kids, 4 and under, and she's like, "What? No, no, like, what are you talking about?" And so, of course, I had to back up a little bit. I told her kind of what I was thinking, and she's very supportive. And she says, "You know what? I trust you. If you feel like this is something that you want to do, I trust you." And from that moment forward, we built a plan, which took about another year and a half to play out to where I could build up enough reserves to make that jump because I wasn't naive to what I was going to make. I said, hey, if I make 25% of what I made leaving Kraft the first year, that's probably good. Hopefully 50% year 2. Hopefully by year 3 or 4, I'm making roughly the same amount. And it's going to be a rough road leading up to that point. So I think I was pretty a realist on what it would take, but I was excited for the challenge.
I love the fact that you thought that far ahead and really prepared because those first 3-4 years are rough and they're rough for everybody, even the ones that, scale to the very top of the mountain. And for so many of us, the excitement of getting into real estate might overshadow the reality of those first few years. So and also too, you're not from here, so that's the other thing. Your wife is from
Yep,
here, right? So your wife is from
correct.
here, so she has a network of people. Obviously that's great, but you don't, and you're not selling real estate up in Detroit. And you have this network of people you've worked with in corporate America, and maybe those became clients, I don't know. But what was how did you start thinking about, oh gosh, now I have to go out and source business? What was that pathway? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so I was lucky. I feel like transitioning when I did. So I transitioned and I put a bunch of different. I was throwing hooks everywhere trying to catch a fish, and I didn't really know exactly how I wanted to build a business just yet. But the funny thing is like if you do it, it all works. You just have to focus on what you want to do, what path you want to go down. And I think the one thing I had going for me was I truly had like a burn the ships mentality. Like I'm not going back to this old world, so I will do whatever it takes. Things that I'm honestly not willing to do now, I would do before. So whether it was working just a ton of open houses, I remember doing some home valuation lead stuff. I was buying some stuff on Facebook when Facebook leads, you could still target and get some decent conversation started from there. That was actually a big one in the beginning, which doesn't work now, but back then you could spend not that much and get a ton of names inquiring where you could reach out. And so I was doing some of that cold outreach, but it was off of maybe a home valuation lead or a Facebook lead where I had a phone number of somebody that showed some level of intent, even if it was just like, hey, I didn't mean to click on that. And I never got down the door knocking, but between open houses, home valuation leads, Facebook leads, I was able to get enough off the ground to start getting that ball rolling downhill. And the nice thing is too, when I did transition full time, I had about 8 or 10 transactions under my belt already. Family and friends knew I had a license. They trusted me enough to even work with me when I was part time, and I wasn't really trying to build anything yet. And so I wasn't totally green when I started, and that helped me kind of get off to a quicker start. I feel like where I wasn't trying to learn the MLS on day one, I was truly trying to find the first deal.
Yeah, you did it the hard way, but certainly probably the right way, which is for people who especially have a family, have to support, you're going part-time and there is no part-time realtor. So you must have been burning the candle at both ends for quite a while before being able to make that jump. And boy, I really admire that. I can't imagine how much that of discipline and commitment that must have taken for you, not only to save up to be able to do it, but then to also sort of through that transition period. You're not a single guy. You're a dad. You've got all these other responsibilities going on, and boy, that's a tough commitment. But you're right. It's this sort of you focus on something. What did I want to talk about open houses because I hear agents often they have very sort of polar responses to open houses. Either, oh my God, they're the greatest thing ever, or nope, they don't work. And I know they work because they work for some agents and some agents love them. And how important are open houses for you today?
They're not nearly as important for me today as they used to be. However, I will say that I know I'm giving away business by not hosting certain open houses.
Sure.
So we'll have team members do open houses, and if it doesn't fit for them, we'll have people in our office host open houses. What I'll say is the reason why I don't do them is because they're the most difficult on my work-life balance.
Yeah.
They're happening Saturday, Sunday. When if I'm working Saturday or Sunday, it's probably because I'm drafting an offer before the due date, or I'm showing a property to somebody who's very high intent, or I'm going on a listing appointment. I've kind of come to the conclusion that that's not the best use of my time on a weekend just because of my family structure.
Sure.
And I know there'll be a day that comes soon, 10 years from now, when they're off and doing things, the kids, that I could dive back into that because it absolutely works. But I think you have to be a little bit strategic about it. Like if you're doing an open house on a house that's been on the market for 3 weeks, probably not going to work too well. If you're way out in the boonies, might not work too well. But if you have an open house downtown Glen Ellen, right by the Metro, and you have people from the city who don't know a realtor yet, and they're taking the train in to go look at a few open houses, you're going to meet some people from the city that don't have an agent. It's actually really a great way to meet people. So I think it is something that you could be very strategic. Again, if you're closer to the Metro, closer to the downtowns, they're going to work even better. We've also started testing the open houses I will do Thursday, 4 to 6. You activate the listing in the morning, people see it. You do a weekday open house, you capture commuters coming off the train, and you can get a lot of foot traffic, or even on a Friday. So I'm still doing a little bit of that, but it might be more of like a Thursday evening first look open house versus Saturday or Sunday. But if I was a new agent, I would absolutely be doing them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You should be doing them every weekend as much as you can. Lead, follow up, follow up, follow up. I want to talk about look, you've got 5 kids at home. I want to let's just address that right away because that is it's a blessing and a massive obstacle, right? Like that is a challenge, and
Well
I
said.
don't mean that in any sort of pejorative way. I
No,
mean, it is
no,
a wonderful
100%.
thing and it is a lot. So how do you manage that, you and your wife, with 5 kids and you're running a business?
Yeah, so my wife was a nurse for several years, and that was really difficult because she was working nights, and so that would lock up certain weeknights where I couldn't be showing property, and she was gone working. Thankfully, she's not working anymore. I mean, she loved it, but she's not working anymore, so that's a little bit of a help. But I think it just it forced me to be honest with how I needed to set up my team. Many people would say the first hire needs to be an executive assistant. I didn't do that first. I actually went and partnered with an agent who's still with me today. His name's Kyle Keck. He's fantastic. And I said, hey, the thing that's stopping me from getting from 15 million to 25 million is evenings. It's being available in the evenings. And so I partnered with Kyle And between us, we were able to cover everything we needed to cover. And he was leverage for me in the evenings. And now we have 3 agents on the team. And so we have a showing calendar where we can make sure we all can live our lives, but still be available for clients. And so literally each night of the week, we know who's covering who. And we're all there available to service clients on the team, depending on who's got that covered. So that was important for me to be realistic that I'm not going to be able to grow this business unless I'm available outside of normal work hours. And I need somebody to help me with that. And if I can't do that, I'll be stuck at 15 million forever.
Yeah, you have to be really intentional about structure, I guess, with five kids, because obviously they're on structure, activities, and and knowing like, okay, I can't do evenings at certain times, so I need to solve for that. And yeah, really smart. I imagine a lot of the skills that you learned or developed or brought into the corporate world where you were, I imagine some of that problem solving was able to be transitioned over into real estate. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I see you as somebody who is able to take some of these challenges and see them as sort of opportunities to create structure.
Yeah, I think that was honestly, if I was to say, what's the superpower, what makes me successful, I think it is that corporate America experience where I saw consultants coming in and helping us with our businesses, and I said, hey, that's really what a realtor should be as a consultant. And what's great about a consultant is they're wonderful communicators, but they present a plan and they present to you, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what's going to happen next. I'm going to come in and check in, and they continue to forward pace you down and lay out the process of how things are going to play out. But they also have contingency plans, and they also can lay out pros and cons, everything like that. So I learned to be very systematic just based on that experience and having to call on customers and to be very fact based and know you're competing against other big brands that are doing the same thing. And so for me, bringing that into real estate to say, okay, I need to be very structured. To your point, I need to treat this like a job. I'm going to
Yeah.
come in, I'm going to drop my kids off at school and go right into the office, and I'm going to work at least 9 to 5, then go home and be with them. And there'll be a couple weekend or a couple nights a week where I'll be out showing. Kyle's going to help with the rest. Weekends, I'll do the most important activities. Like I'll make it all work. I'll still get my 55 hours in, but I'm going to be strategic about it so that I'm not at my kids' events, but be
Right.
very strategic about it, and then be very efficient, systematic. And I think that's what's helped us. Like when I think back to feedback that we've received, and this is a good, bad, or indifferent. It's just when people don't say, "Hey, you were so fun to work with," and that's great if you are, or "Hey, great negotiator," and I think we are. But they've said by far the most, "Thank you for your professionalism," and I
Yeah.
think that word speaks back to what you mentioned is my previous experience. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to be in the room having those discussions with those customers. You got to be buttoned up. You got to be systematic. You got to do what you say you're going to do. You have to be a good communicator, and you need to be strategic and lay out pros and cons. And all that stuff plays really well in real estate. And it turns out not many people can do it.
Yeah, I my first one of my first jobs out of college, I worked for Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis, and I did marketing for them, and I knew nothing about beer, really, but they were the number one, and maybe they still are, I'm not sure, number one beer, sort of distributor and manufacturer in the country by a wide margin, and they own most of the brands that people don't even realize are their brands. And I learned, oh, this is why they're number one. It's not the product necessarily is better. It's, beer is kind of beer. It's like you like what you like, but it's not necessarily that it's so much higher in quality. But they just have a different expectation that is set for the people that work there. It is like, oh no, we do things differently here. And we are going to outpace our competitors because we're more professional. And they have certain, I mean, it's funny if you think about beer and how it's kind of a silly industry, but it is something that they took very seriously and I had to take seriously. And it's kind of a weird dichotomy of like learning how to be ultra professional in this kind of goofy business. But it was awesome because it was like, oh, we would, I won't get into too many details, but they would look at like when we would drive our trucks up for marketing events, they would look at the chrome, the chrome things on the wheels, like how shiny are the chrome. It's like, what does that have to
Mhm.
do with beer? It has everything to do with it. It's like everything has to be perfect. And so of course, these are are things that you learn in corporate America when you're number one, and why you're number one. And craft, of course, is plays in that space as well. And so I think that that is absolutely accurate. You know, you see this kind of unstructured world of real estate, being a realtor, and you can kind of do what you want. You can kind of create your own brand, you can create your own process, and the people that do really well have really professional brands and processes. And I see that in you. And I'm certainly want to talk a little bit about that. I want to shift gears just a bit and talk about being referral based, because obviously that's what everybody wants. And you are now in that season of your business where you're getting a lot of referrals, I'm sure. So tell us about how you keep that growing. Obviously, that is the highest ROI, is referrals. So tell us a little bit about, how you do that, and what that process looks like.
Yeah. There's a few things that come to mind. It's very related to what we were just talking about, actually, with systems and standards. When you think about somebody reaching their neck out to refer you, they want to be confident of what that person's going to receive. And if they feel like you were just flying by the seat of your pants throughout that transaction, even if it went well, they might be a little bit more reluctant to refer you because they're not sure exactly what the next person's going to receive.
Yeah.
When they get the sense that what we were doing is very systematic, and we have touch points that are defined, like, hey, I'm going to touch base with you on Monday for this reason, Tuesday for this reason, Friday for that reason, and people see that it's thoughtful, they are more confident to refer you. We've all been in that situation where I have a painter that's awesome, but the minute he doesn't call somebody back, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do that. This is my reputation. So somebody that's very buttoned up and has that all figured out is going to get referrals. So I think as an agent, you need to think about, systems and standards, and then you need to think about ways that you can surprise and delight people to make them know that you care about them, because they're going to feel like indebted to you. And that's what we want to be doing anyways. We want people to have great experiences. So we think about thoughtful touch points throughout the process. Hey, you're through attorney review. Here's a bag of coffee from your favorite spot. Saying, hey, here's some go-go juice for the packing you're going to have to do. Handwritten notes for different reasons. Events. We like to get people together all the time after the transaction to tell them this is a lifelong partnership. We want to be your lifelong real estate advisor. And we're not going to reach out to you 6 months from now asking about real estate. We're going to invite you to our happy hour event. We're going to invite you to the dumpster event so you can throw away your crap. We're going to invite you to this or that. We want to reach out with something of value, and not to get more business from you. And so when we stay in front of people in that type of way, they feel like they're not going to tense up when you call them. That's the worst thing you can do if you want referrals, is to be always asking for business, so that when they call you, you train them to put the phone down and not talk back because they know you're going to have an awkward conversation with them. Let's not do that. And the next thing I would say, is outside of systems, surprising and delighting,
Yeah.
is just really being thoughtful and not an idiot with the question of how's the market. I feel like that's the number one question you get, is how's the market? And you could just be living your normal life with kids at the game, and you're going to get asked that question. And that's the difference between a referral or not. Because if you say it's hot or it's not, or like whatever, that's just such a basic answer. It doesn't mean anything. And so get to know people through that question, ask questions back, and show them that you know more than what they can find out on Zillow, and you're gonna get referrals.
I couldn't agree more. And with AI now, we really don't have an excuse not to have an answer to that question, because you could literally pull up a chat GPT, ask that question via voice, and get an answer back, and you could parrot that exact answer if you want to. So yeah, everybody should. That is the number one question you get, is how's. It's funny, I get that question, and I'm not a practicing agent, and I have my rote answer, which is, you don't want me to answer that question because I don't know as much. I can tell you more about marketing and this and that. I can tell you how our agents are doing, but as far as the market itself, I don't know. But I'm always impressed with agents that do know, and I ask agents, how's the market, because I don't know. And the good agents have an answer, and not only do they have an answer, they're excited to talk about it, because this is what they're into. And I think that's really important, is getting passionate about some of this data, or this information, because
Yeah.
that, of course, comes out when you're like, oh, let me tell you, actually condos are up right now, or single family homes are not doing so well, or whatever, whatever the data might be. And the idea too is, when people say how's the market, that's really an invitation to have a conversation, because how's the market could mean one of a million questions. Really, it's not really a question. It's you have to get about 7 more questions deep before you can actually answer that question. So now it's like, oh hey, that's a great question. Tell me where you live. Like, what are you?
Exactly. You nailed it.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to have like a real estate
It's
conversation.
probably
And
like
the
it's
yeah.
probably like the best opener because
Oh,
if when somebody asks you that, and people do every day, it's like all of us, they don't realize what they're really asking. It's kind of like saying to a stockbroker, how's the market? It's
yeah.
like, well, there's what do
Pandora's
you mean?
box. It's
Right?
like, yeah. Well, that's the whole point, and that's how you can show them that you know more and you're a little bit more strategic. Is the answer is always it depends. What's your situation
Yeah.
like? Are you a buyer, a seller? Are you in the luxury price range? Are you in the entry level? Are you in Wheaton? Are you in Hints? Like the answer is like it depends. Let me hear more, and that, to your point, invites a conversation. And through those questions, I think they can understand quickly that it's not so simple. It's not
Right.
just, oh, it's hot or it's not, and that this person is pretty thoughtful and they're asking great questions. I think they could leave that conversation like, hey, that person kind of knows what they're talking about. And then if you compare that with visibility online where they can kind of learn more about you, like that's why Instagram is important for us, is when we're at our kids' events, and that's what makes kids actually the one thing is like easy prospecting. You're at the game, you're coaching your kids' team, and you answer that question one time, and then you're following each other on social media, and they say the proof of the results through social media. The next conversation might be, hey, do you mind if we talk sometime? And that's happened plenty, to where it's an easy way in to have like a deeper conversation about doing business together. And that's like one of our best forms of getting business is just, I call it prospecting, but it's really just living your life with your kids, answering that question well, and also following each other on social media where they can see that you know what you're doing and that this isn't just a hobby.
I want to talk about social media and how you utilize it to communicate mastery. And I think that's something that's really important to you because you've just now talked about this. That you meet somebody, you're sharing social handles, and now it's like this person now needs to see when they are scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or Facebook that I actually have information that is valuable to them. So tell me a little bit about how you think about marketing on social media.
We've transitioned a little bit. I was a little bit too, I think about it as a funnel, right? Top of funnel is broad information that many people might care about. Bottom of funnel might be somebody in a real estate transaction. It's more natural for me to be bottom of funnel, talk about escalation clauses and this and that, multiple offers. The problem is nobody really cares about it. You have to be in a transaction to care about it. And if you're in a transaction, you're probably working with somebody that isn't me, whatever. So it's like, okay, how do we how do we sprinkle in bottom of funnel but not make our page about that? So what we arrived at a couple of years ago, probably a year and a half ago, which has really helped us a lot, is saying, okay, we want to be top of funnel, but something that's still very relevant to our target consumer. And so we're going to focus on being the mayor of the western suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
We're going to provide valuable insights that you can care about this information, whether you're a resident, somebody looking to relocate, or somebody in a transaction. And what we're going to sprinkle in is real estate data, sprinkle in maybe a green screen where I'm talking about something strategic. We're going to sprinkle in a listing video, and we're going to sprinkle in a success story. Other than that, 8 out of 10 posts are about the town itself. And then as you follow, we sprinkle in with some of the other stuff. And that's been way more successful for us. We've done had a lot more leads come in that way. And it's something that we're going to continue to double down on and kind of get a little bit more to YouTube as well, since that's evergreen, that kind of can last forever. Whereas social media, it's kind of gone after people see it for 24 hours. And so that we can be kind of the mayor of the town that we want to work in.
Let's dive into that a little further because that is so important and such a great idea. We hear this term of becoming a mayor. Basically, what you're really talking about is what are questions that people who are either live there currently have about the area or people who are thinking of moving to the area might have. And what are those questions? How can answer those questions and be of service to those, especially on YouTube, as you mentioned, because those questions and answers can live forever, and sprinkling in some real estate fairy dust along the way, right? So you're basically thinking about what do people need to know who live here or who want to move here? Is that my understanding?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, a good model is, hey, what are the schools like? What are the downtowns like? What's the cost of living between Hinsdale and Wheaton? Because it's very different. If you're relocating, this is a hidden neighborhood you might not know about. Sprinkle in Lombard or Villa Park. Hey, people are getting priced out. Elmhurst, they're coming here. Here's why. Give them a little bit of like peel back the onion, some fun facts about the area. And I think people that are relocating or coming from the city, that speaks really like that's what they are searching. And there's some good resources online where you can, I'm forgetting the name of the website, Ask the Public, or there's a couple different ones where you can go in and actually see what people are searching online, and you can kind of just answer those questions. But honestly, just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, look, I'm trying to attract leads from people relocating. What are 15 questions that not many people are talking about that I can answer? Whether it's
That
here,
people need to know the answer to. I mean,
exactly.
it could even be as simple as who's the best dentist in town, right? Like it
Yeah.
could even be that. It could be, or what's the best park for kids, or whatever. These are non-real estate related, but they are real estate related because you're going to be moving there and you're going to be wondering where's the grocery store, or where's the where do I go to get my dry cleaning done? And I think this is people. So many agents neglect this part of it, and it's so important. Become the mayor of something, some geographic area where you can become the expert in that area, because if people move in and out of that area or just move within that area, you can become this hub of information, and you can build your entire brand. Even though you might work outside of that area, you can build your entire brand within that area, and then you'll get business elsewhere as too. But I think, yeah, it's like, become the expert at something and provide content. It's so funny. We see a lot of, although I think it's getting better. When I first 15 years ago, when I first started in this industry in social media, I would see realtors only doing well, not only, but mostly doing self-congratulatory posts. Like, hey, look at me, I just did this cool thing. And that's fine, cool, whatever. But it doesn't really provide value to the reader or the consumer. It's just, hey, I recognize you did this good thing, great. It's a little bit of a self pat on the back. And then I thought, as years went on, I started seeing realtors maybe start to come up with things that would be actually helpful for people. And I've found that has not changed. And that trajectory for content is the need for that content is ever growing. It's always there. So that's always what I
Well, and you can tell their story. You can tell a story. So instead of saying, "Hey, I closed this house for $1 million," you could say, "Here's how I did this, or here's how we achieved this goal for this client. It started with this. We did that." And you could tell a story. You could do a nice carousel. You tell a story. It's about the client. You could talk about how you unlocked a goal that they had in real estate, or maybe the equity that they were able to get over 7 years of owning it, what it allowed their family to do. So I think there's ways to like sprinkle in proof of like, hey, I'm good at what I do, but also make it about the client. I think that's the marketing side of the brain, is how do we do that to where, because everyone wants to hear the story, but they don't care about you selling a house. Like they don't care, nor should they.
Let's talk about building a trusted brand. So, how do you communicate trust?
I'd say consistency. I'd say always being that consultant and having people that you don't need to be rigid, but you do need people to fold into your process somewhat. For a so good example, somebody reaches out. We had this happen recently. Hey, I'm interested in your listing. Can you show it to me today? And I think you could communicate trust in just a small example. Hey, I would love to share more about this listing with you, but it's pretty standard for our process to sit down first, to have a buyer's consultation, talk about your situation. We would love to hear more about it so we can make sure we can be a great resource for you. So it's showing professionalism. It's helping them. You're folding them into your process, not the other way around. You're showing them that you're not a door opener. Now, do you want to show it? Yeah, probably. But should you jump on a Saturday to go do that before you qualify them? Absolutely not. So I think having a process, sticking to that within reason, doing what you say you're going to do, and then I think just the sheer, like we talked about social media, your brand can be a local thing. Like I have people come up to me now and they're like, "Oh, I see you everywhere." And what they're really saying is, you're probably on social media. You're doing the banner at the Wheaton, the basketball gym, and you're doing the mailer and all these different things. So like building trust is a little bit about being visible and really farming an area. It's hard to build trust over 15 different towns, but I can build a lot of trust in Wheaton, Glen Ellen, because that's what I focus my money on. So I think it's what you provide, your standards, your systems, but also a bit of like farming a certain area and being a mayor of a certain area. That together with also making sure the transaction is about them and not about you, where they feel taken care of. All that plays into what your brand is.
Yeah, customer service I can tell is really significant for you, and it should be for everyone. But it is the name of the game, and when you work at a company like Kraft, it is all about the customer. So we understand you know your customer, serve your customer, make your customer feel better than they would expect to feel working with you, and having those standards of practice. And that is not something that all realtors are taught how to do. Is how do I actually create standards? What experience do I want for each of my clients? I want to talk a little bit. I want to shift into AI only because I suspect you're an AI guy, and I want to learn a little bit more about how you are leveraging AI for your team and your brand, and how is AI helping you?
Yeah, this is one, honestly, if I was a realtor, I would really take this to heart. I think there's an opportunity right now to kind of hijack AI's like search algorithm a little bit to where we've been doing a ton of blogging that's SEO specific to our area with a very intentional strategy to show up on AI search. And
Wow.
I'm not kidding you. I had a message from somebody in my office 2 days ago, and they asked about certain restaurants in Wheaton, and the source material was my website for the top three. The top three answers were source material from blogs from my website. So think about that. They're pulling my blogs that AI probably created, they did create, about this restaurant, which then AI used to use as like the search, the answer is somebody asking about restaurants in our area. So think about that. Like that's huge. So blogging used to be the thing 15 years ago. Then there was no reason to do it. Now I would say build a website. It's easy. Use luxury presence, somebody that can do it for you,
Yeah.
and then start building SEO rich content, whether it's on your Google business profile or ideally on your website, and make sure that AI has what it needs to recommend you or your material when people search.
So what Mike's talking about is a new way to feed. What we used to care about is being the number one position on Google, in the SEO. And if you weren't number one, number two, or number three, you sort of didn't matter because people didn't scroll usually beyond that. So you needed to be for a certain keyword or key phrase that top position. But things have changed and things are changing. And now I don't know if you're like me, Mike, but I do more talking to AI than I do searching. And
Yep.
so, what AI does, which is particularly interesting, is AI does the searches for you and it will go deep. It will go 12, 15 pages in. So, it's no longer so important that you are in that top pole position on Google. I mean, it's nice, it's certainly a good thing. But if you are page 11 and you've got the best content, AI will figure that out over time and return that content and serve it up to the user when they are asking questions. So you are absolutely right, and that is something that really I haven't had anybody else say on this podcast to date. So I appreciate that, is creating great content about in this case for a realtor, maybe a particular geographic area or a certain subset of information that you want. Think about what are people searching for, just like you might make social media content around. Write content about this because we are utilizing AI now to, it is the oracle at Delphi. We are asking it questions, it is returning us answers, and it is getting that information from the live web. So that's a great point.
Yeah,
It's
and I got
funny.
one more.
I am so grateful that you mentioned that because I need to remember to do that as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
got one more tip if you got a second. So
yeah.
you can go right into ChatGPT. This is what I recommend everybody do, and say, "Hey, I'm Billy Bob, and I work in this area. I'm a realtor. I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to make it so that people can find me online to work with buyers and sellers and investors. What are my blind spots? What are the things I need to do better online so that people can find me?" Prompted something like that. I did that, and I had about 10 different things that I wanted me to do to rank higher in search. It was like, "Hey, your business name varies across these different platforms. You need to have a specific Thornton team at Keller Williams versus the Thornton team or the Michael Thornton team. You need to fix that. You need to fix your address. It's on your old address in a few different ones because it needs to trust that you are the resource. And if you have varying information, that's enough for AI to say, hey, I'm not sure this is trustworthy. I can't present that as truth in the response. So the better you can show it that this is trustworthy information, the better. And so it gave me 10 different things to do. I literally went in and did all those things. Part of it was like, hey, you need to do some SEO rich blogging, these different things, talk about schools, talk about parks, talk about new developments, things like that. So we did. And voila, depending on who you are and what your question is, if you're asking about, hey, what realtor should I work with in our area, we are ranking and we are coming up as a response.
Amazing. Brilliant. And that alone is a great strategy. And I heard a great answer to a question of how do I use AI better? Ask AI how you can use it better, right? So you don't have to necessarily even search for how to utilize AI better, although that's great too. But you can ask it. It is the best source of its own information. So, Mike, that is such a brilliant idea. Thank you so much for that. I want to talk about team structure to sort of wrap us up here because you have a unique team structure, and I think teams are really at a pivotal point right now in real estate where we're sort of moving into. There's more teams now than there has ever been, and I want to talk about why teams are important and tell us about your structure.
Yeah. So I view our team as a shared infrastructure team. So what I mean by that is the real benefit of our team is that we can all have a life. We have somebody that can cover one another. They can tap into Lindsay, who's our marketing and staging. She works with our team, and so if you're on our team, you have full access to all her staging services. She'll do the installs. She'll do all your marketing from like newsletters. She'll do all the stuff on social media that doesn't involve me speaking. She's doing that, putting that all together, and she'll do that for team members. So every team's set up differently. So we're not a ton of like, hey, we're going to just feed you leads all day long. There's an element of that, or there's an element of like, hey, you can work this open house, or hey, this buyer, I'm at capacity, I need you to work it. But what I would say is we're a shared infrastructure team. We're there to be leverage for one another. And the most important thing about building a team, and this is what we do, eyes wide open, is we build a value proposition. So we are all on the same page. People might want to leave a team for different reasons. That's okay. But I don't want them to leave because they feel like they can make more money somewhere else. So we have a structure. And I know that if I don't pretty much feed Kyle a deal on a plate once a year, the value might not be there between all the other things we're paying for and the staging. Like he might be able to make more somewhere else. So I need to know, hey, I need to make sure he gets a few leads, he gets a deal from just me, in addition to all the other things we're doing. That he's tapping into all the events, he's tapping into all the different things that we're doing to make this work, because I don't want him to have to leave. And I want him to feel like he is not going to outgrow the team. That's my number one thing. And so I might make a little bit less compared to some team leaders, but we have great, Allison's been with me for a long time. Kyle, like they've all, retention's very good because I feel like I created a structure that I'm sensitive to. And part of the reason I left corporate America is I felt like I had that ceiling. I don't want them to feel like they have a ceiling, because I wouldn't want that. I was trying to answer the question of why wouldn't I join a team? And let me take care of that right away so that you could be on this team, build your own brand, still tap into the infrastructure and grow without a ceiling.
Yeah, I think those are wonderful answers and really great suggestions for people who are looking to either join a team or build a team. Think about what you're offering, why you're offering, and why somebody should join you or why you should join another team and what you're bringing to value if you are joining a team. Like, why should they bring you on? And make sure it's a symbiotic relationship. Um, I want to thank Michael. Mike, we really appreciate your time today. You have brought a lot of great ideas to our audience. I appreciate that. On behalf of the audience, we thank you for sharing how you built your business and how you continue to build your business and thrive within the industry. It's truly incredible, and we're going to continue to watch your ascent. And for those of you who are outside of the Chicagoland area, if you have clients that move within to Chicago, don't call me. I'm not a practicing realtor. Call Mike. He wants to talk to you. He would be happy to touch base and see if it would be a nice synergistic relationship. So they need a realtor. Reach out to Mike. And if you're somebody within the Chicagoland area and maybe you're looking for a team, check out Mike as well. Maybe he and his team might be a good fit for you. And I want everybody to follow Mike at his Instagram account, which is Michael Thornton 1. So Michael Thornton 1 on Instagram. And I want to thank Mike on behalf of all of our listeners. This is the December holiday. Mike is busy with his kids, and he took time out of his day to tell us how to be successful in real estate and how he's successful. We appreciate him. On behalf of Mike and myself, we want to thank the audience for making it to the end of the episode. We thank our sponsors. We love them so much. They are the reason we can keep doing our shows. And we are now 7 years in, I think about 700 episodes. So grateful to everybody for keeping this ship afloat. We will continue to do these into the next year. And please tell a friend. Think of one other agent that needs to hear this particular episode with Mike and shoot them a link. Keeping It Real is the name, of course. Send them everywhere podcasts are served. Let them know about our show. We would appreciate it. And you would be doing us a huge, huge favor. So, and also leave us a review. If you're currently watching or listening on a particular platform, let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what we can do to improve. We've got all sorts of different guests on these shows these days. We have all sorts of different hosts. It's become a huge network, and we are so proud and honored to continue to provide that for you. Michael, on behalf of everyone, thank you so much. And
Thank
we will
you.
see everybody on the next episode.